Alright guys, today is our last time meeting about the Canterbury Tales. We're gonna go ahead and knock out parts 3 and 4 today. If you're watching this in 2020, we are gonna probably take your test on Wednesday. So I'm gonna ask that you have this and your reading guide done by at least Tuesday. That way you can come and take your test Wednesday afternoon, which is the other testing day. Of course, Coach Jack will be in touch with you personally about that. So we are getting through the Canterbury Tales, and the Canterbury Tales, as you know, the prologue, this is just an introduction. It's an introduction to all the pilgrims on their way to St. Thomas a Becket's shrine. And they have different motivation for going, they're all different people. And of course, we have established that Chaucer is a genius for being able to write, as you know, all poets are, to be able to write this wonderful poem, wonderful story, this narrative in 10 syllables and rhyming couplets. So we have been talking about different characters or pilgrims like the knight, the squire, um, the doctor, the wife of Bath, the nun. And today we're going to look at the last few, and then we'll see what it is Chaucer is really up to with all of this. So I am on page 158. We're going to start on line 539. But I want to remind us about the parson. The parson, who was basically a parish priest, very holy, very devout, and nothing bad to say about him in the least. So today we're going to start off with his brother, the plowman. The plowman, he basically digs things, okay? Um, line 539. There was a plowman with him there, his brother, many a load of dung one time or other. He must have carted through the morning dew. He was an honest worker, good and true, living in peace and perfect charity. And as the gospel bade him, so did he, loving God best with all his heart and mind, and then his neighbor as himself, repined as no misfortune, slacked for no content, for steadily about his work he went, to thrash his corn, to dig or to manure, or make a ditch, and he would help the poor, for love of Christ, and never take a penny, if he could help it, and, as prompt as any, he paid his tithes, meaning his moneys to the church, in full when they were due, and on what he owned, and his earnings too. He wore a tabard smock and rode a mare. So he is the brother, the biological brother, of the parson. So I want you to try to get into the text and see what similarities the plowman and his brother, the parson, share. Well, then we get to the miller. Give me 1 second. I need a drink of my root beer. All right. The miller is a big guy. The text tells us he weighs 16 stone, and if you look at the side note, you'll see what a stone is. Now, I did the math, and you might want to check my math, but he's about 224 pounds. Big guy. Big guy. And it says he could heave any door off its hinge and post, or take a run and break it with his head. He's a big guy. And the miller, not so much a good guy because he likes to steal things. Okay? He's not an honest man. He steals grain. Okay? And he plays the bagpipes up and down. So, pretty big guy, probably real boisterous. All that stuff. Alright, now the manciple. A manciple is someone who's in charge of buying food, basically. Think of it like he runs an estate's food service. And he's very, very good at what he does. As a matter of fact, he's pretty brilliant at his job. He does have a secret, though. Or maybe not a secret, but he's illiterate. Okay? So, even though he can't read or write, he has wisdom, Chaucer says. So, that's the surprising fact about the miller. I'm sorry, about the manciple. So, just think about that, though. What is Chaucer saying about education during his time? Or about people who were learned, people who were wise? Okay? Let's go ahead and think about that. Alright, next we have the reeve. The reeve was an old man. And the reeve's job, basically, is to he's basically the overtaker of an overseer of an estate. Okay, and he's really good at his job. And as you're reading, and again, I'm not going to read this line by line; it's way too long, and that would not do you any favors. But the Reeve was very well respected and feared by those under him. So he also grew rich, and had a store of treasure well tucked away. Well, I wonder where that stuff came from. Just think about that. All right, then we have the summoner. A summoner is someone who works for the Catholic Church. Remember, the Catholic Church is basically the only Christian church at the time. And the summoner, his job, whenever a person was needed in front of a church court, the summoner's job was to go and get them, summon them, and bring them back to stand trial in the church court. Um, he was a drunkard. He liked to drink, and he also, as you read, you see, he let a lot of people get away with their crimes by, you know, a little bribery. So we're seeing a pattern here of these allegedly holy men in the church taking money for things or not being what they ought to be living up to. Okay? Then we have the pardoner. A pardoner, and we're actually going to read we're actually going to read the pardoner's tale, the pardoner's story, the story that he tells. But he was also very into money, and he would sell fake relics. Okay, now a relic is a holy object that's venerated or respected by the faithful. It could be anything from like pieces of the true cross, which we do have today, the cross Jesus was crucified on. It could be pieces of the crown of thorns that that was placed on Jesus. It could actually be things like a part of a bone or an entire bone from a saint. Okay, well, the partner would travel around with a pillowcase that he said was the Virgin Mary's veil. He would carry around, I think the text says pig's bones, and he would say that it belonged to a saint. So not a good guy, not a good guy at all. All right, so let's talk about why we're doing all this. Why did Chaucer tell us about each and every one of these men and women? We get to the point of the part of the story where the host talks. Their host, the owner of the inn, the tavern inn where they all are, and he gives them an offer. He says he wants to play a game. He wants every pilgrim to tell two stories on the way to Canterbury and two stories on the way back from Canterbury. And the one who tells the best story is going to have a meal, a free meal, whenever they get back to the tavern. And that, my friends, is the Canterbury Tales. So, the Canterbury Tales is a book, and this is just the introduction of the book. And the actual Canterbury Tales is the stories of the pilgrims, the stories that they tell. Now, like I said, we're actually gonna read the Pardoner's Tale. So hopefully you got through the what do you call it, the prologue, well, and are ready for our test. If you have any questions, email me, text me, get my number. I think we're done. Know that I miss y'all, and can't wait till we're all back together. Have a great weekend and a great day. Love you all. Bye bye.